Hey, what's going on? Welcome to another episode of Hanging Out with Nolan Hong. And joining us this week on the podcast is someone who, when I first met her, she was the executive director of Read to Me International here in Hawaii. And since then, she has moved on to a new position. She is now the Hawaii Regional Director at Catapult Learning, which is an education service company supporting struggling learners. I'm so excited to talk to her about not only her new job, but also just like to catch up with her. It's been a while since we got to talk. So I'm happy to have her on here. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Cara Kusunoki. Hey, Cara.
Hey, Nolan. Great to be with you again.
So, Cara, I was just thinking about this. Like, you'd been executive director at Read to Me International for quite a while. How many years were you there for?
I was there for 4 years and they
Yeah,
were
yeah.
fantastic. It was absolutely great. I loved supporting our mission, which was to promote the love and joy of reading aloud. And I'm excited to do this in this new role with Catapult Learning as well.
So, what were you doing before you were at Read to Me International?
Yeah, so I was actually working in healthcare with Kaiser
Oh,
Permanente,
no way.
and it was great because I got to work with a lot of adult learners that were new to the organization and kind of could show them the ropes and of Kaiser Permanente's culture. And then prior to that, I was still in education, working on fundraising, event planning, supporting first year teachers, because it is always a challenge to be a first year
Mm.
teacher in the classroom. And so my work just kind of has revolved around supporting people, which I love.
So, where did just this joy in supporting people, but also in learning and education come from for you? Was it something that you've always just had growing up going to school, or was there something that happened where you're like, this is where I gotta put my
Yeah.
effort into?
Well, I that's such a great question because my mom was a teacher and she was a
Okay.
grade school teacher. And I think I got it from her, the interest in helping people, supporting people, being in the classroom too. That's actually where I got my start. I was a middle school teacher, which middle
Oh,
school
really?
is the best. Yes,
I've heard the opposite. I heard that that is the hardest age group because they're just like it's so awkward for them. They're transitioning from like being kids to like teens. Like I've heard
yeah.
so many horror stories about middle school.
Yeah, I mean, I think we all have our own horror stories, right, from middle school,
Yeah.
like the weird years, right? But at the same time, like, yes, they are little adults, and we were little adults as middle schoolers thinking we knew everything about the world.
Yeah.
But at the same time, when I think about my own middle school experience, I think about how much my middle school teachers helped me to develop and grow. And I was really kind of at that crossroad in my life of what do I want to do? Who am I going into high school? And so the teachers at the school campus really set the tone for, who I was going to be and what my
Yeah.
values were and how I was going to lead my life.
Do you have any uh memories that still kind of not necessarily haunt you today, but that like still stick out in your mind from middle school?
Yeah, it's funny because I have quite a few, but and middle school was one of my favorite times of my life, just because I think we were all just so wild and we just
Yeah.
were little kids growing into little adults at that time. And I think I remember my band teacher in middle school, and his name was Mr. Kiyonaga, and he was terrifying, like just the scariest guy alive, like just super strict in the class, just scared my pants off practically. And I think I learned a lot from him about discipline and about doing your best and expecting you to be your best at all times.
Hmm.
And I think that really stuck with me because through Catapult Learning, I actually got to go back to my middle school alma mater
Oh,
and
no
see Mr.
way.
Kiyonaga again.
He's still there?
And he's
Wow.
still there, though he would not want me to tell you that, but he's still there. After many years of teaching, he's still at the campus. And I got to, over the time that I've gotten to know him, I've seen him more as a person and how he
Mm.
truly cared about us enough to be so strict and expect the best from us at all times, that it's really left the impact, I think, on how I believe that we should support kids.
Mm. And and what is that belief that you have and how you can support kids?
I think being fair and being
Mm.
consistent. And I think sometimes it's about showing tough love, right? Just kind of kids knowing when they're doing something right or wrong, and then them having that self-awareness to adjust, I think are all things that we as parents and educators want to build in our, in
Yeah.
our children, right? I mean, we just want them to have a sense of what is the right thing to do in this situation. How would I feel if this were to happen to me? And kind of developing that sense of empathy, I think, is so important in every child.
Yeah, and it's almost as if, well, not almost, it is empowering them with the right experiences, knowledge, and tools so that they feel like
Mhm.
whatever decisions they're making, like they're in control of it versus just like feeling lost and wondering like what direction to go, right?
Exactly. Yeah. As much as we want mom or dad or grandpa or grandma to be around with us forever to help us to make our
Yeah.
decisions, right? We know that one day we have to let our own children fly and make their own decisions. And that is part of, I think, what is our kuleana,
Hmm.
as guides for our future leaders of Hawaii. So.
So when you went back this time around and saw your band teacher, was he still scary to you, or
Oh,
has he
he will
calmed
always
down?
be scary. Yes, he will always be scary. I don't know, Nolan, about you, but I don't know if there was a teacher that you were so intimidated by. They will always be Mr. or Miss so and so to
Yeah.
you. You could never call them by their first name, like unheard of. Still scary, but also just kind of you come to that point where you realize, what it was that they were trying to instill in you over time.
Yeah. So for my intermediate school band teacher, um, I won't say his name, but he left a mark on me. But it was more of like shock and awe because he got so mad one day at class, and he was upset at somebody, and we didn't know who he was mad at. He just started yelling in the direction of a student, and it was like, "Don't smile! Don't you smile!" And he starts like tearing through, and we were all like, "Is it me? I'm trying to like pull my face," and it turned out it was this other kid like down the row,
Thank
and
goodness.
but I was just like, "Who's smiling? People, stop smiling!"
Yeah,
I've
that
never been
sounds
so scared to
terrifying.
smile. Yeah.
Right, right. Yeah. I wouldn't smile for the rest of the school year if I were you.
Yeah.
I'd be like, nope, not going to do that.
Yeah. Because they're like, who is he talking to? Is it me? Or like we're like looking at each other's faces, like who's smiling?
That's amazing, though.
Weird how of all the classes, I think most kids like when they have a memory of school, they always think back to band if they were in band.
Mhm.
Like it's always a band story.
That's true. That's true. And
Yeah.
for good reason.
What
It's
instrument did
amazing.
you play?
Clarinet. What about you?
Okay. So I played trumpet, but I was terrible at it, and I was always the last chair. and
Hey,
and
at least you
it
stuck
didn't
with
last
it.
too well. Well,
That
I stuck with
that's
it for 2 years, and then high school came and I dropped it.
hmm hmm
Did you do
Yeah.
band all the way through high school?
I in high school I did band for 1 year, and then I actually had the opportunity to go to a symphony orchestra at
Oh
the
wow.
Hawaii state level. So I did that, and I think music was a huge part of my life, and it's something that made sense to me. Unlike some other subjects that I took, that like you could
Yeah.
be speaking to me pretty much in a foreign language, and it would be the same experience. So I think music in a way helped me to kind of feel comfortable and to
Hmm.
feel like I had a sense of identity in school.
I was wondering, for a lot of us, like when we're in school, we're doing something that we really enjoy, like music or band and stuff. But then when you become an adult, so many of us just like that was a school childhood type of thing. But
It's true.
do you still play, or do you kind of wish that if you don't play, do you kind of feel like, oh, it would be really cool to pick it back up again, just because of how much music meant to you back then?
Yeah, I mean, I have some friends who still play, and they ask me, do I want to play, or pick it back up? And I think
Yeah.
for me, I love listening to music. I still very much appreciate music, and I don't know if I'll ever be a clarinet player again. But I think that the lessons that I learned, the discipline that I learned through practicing and practicing again, and the value of that and how it paid off really kind of stuck with me. So I feel like
Yeah.
I take it wherever I go. It's just maybe not in the actually playing the clarinet
Yeah.
portion, you know.
Makes sense. Makes sense. So you said your mom was a teacher. Did you go, where was she your teacher or did you go to a different school?
No, no, that's a great question. People ask me that all the time.
Yeah.
No, she actually decided to send me to a different school so that there wouldn't be that kind of weird mom's a teacher kind of thing on
Yeah.
campus. So she taught at a different elementary school than the one I attended.
What was it hard, growing up knowing that, any kind of issues, if you did have any at school, it's like you can't really pull one over mom because she knows what goes on at school, and you can't like make up a good excuse for if
Yeah,
you.
that's very true. That was the story of my life. Like, as much as I wish I could have gotten away with something, she like knew the curriculum, growing up, like
Yeah.
she knew the teachers by first name. Some of them even like worked together at previous schools together. So I couldn't get away with anything. And it was interesting because I did have a hard time in school. I was
Oh, really?
very much like a struggling learner, especially in math and science. And in a way it was really tough to like navigate that, knowing that I was a daughter of a teacher, but yet I couldn't
Hmm.
master some of the content that my other classmates could so easily.
Yeah. Was there a reason why you had those struggles? Like, were you able to find out what it was that made it so difficult for you?
I think it was my learning style. It was at my school. We call it tier one instruction nowadays, where you kind of teach all kids a certain type of lesson and kind of hope that they get it. And actually,
Mm.
about 80% of the class will. They'll get it. They'll get it immediately. You teach them that lesson, they get it. I think I was one of those like 15% of kids or 20% of kids that just didn't. Like they needed a little bit more. They needed someone to re-practice it with them a little bit longer, possibly instead of just using like a visual, like working through it kinesthetically. I think I was just that kind of learner. And I think I saw the impact of how being a struggling learner in math at an early age, it just continued to stack up as I got older.
Mm.
And then by the time I was in the ninth grade, I really needed a lot of, I guess I'll call it remediation help and
Yeah.
tutoring on the side, because it had just gotten to a point where I was not performing at a certain grade level and I wasn't going to be able to get to where I needed to be for college admittance if I
Mm.
didn't get a tutor on the side, extra help.
Were you able to figure out like what style did work for you through, was it maybe through working with the tutor, or like what because I think people have this misconception that it's like, oh, if somebody's having difficulty in school, it's because they're not trying hard enough or they're not concentrating and things like that. But
Yeah. Yeah. And that's always heartbreaking, right? To hear about
yeah.
like that message of you're not trying hard enough, or like we're not really sure what's wrong, so just keep trucking on, right? Like
Yeah.
those kinds of messages are not helpful to kids. They're not helpful to anyone. And I kind of compare it to like learning a dance for the first time. Some people can pick up the dance like immediately, like the electric slide, like
Mhm.
people like know that like in and out.
I
And then
still have
other
trouble with that
Okay, you still have trouble. No
one.
problem. No problem. Now I know the new version is Cupid Shuffle, which is
Yeah,
kind of like
yeah.
the electric slide, right? Some people on the dance floor, you see them like they're like, oh, that's the rhythm, right? 3 steps this way, 3 steps this way, got it. And then other folks, it could be the end of the song and they're still struggling to get like the 3 or 2 step down, right?
Yeah.
I just kind of feel like for learning, it can be the same way, where if you don't get the first 3 steps, oh, okay, I go right for the first 3 steps,
Hmm.
then you are lost for the rest of the song because you
Yeah.
don't know those first 3 steps, and then you don't know when to
Right.
turn and pivot. So it's like that with learning. I think if you don't conceptually understand, well, why does 2 plus 2 equal 4?
Mm.
It's like you've missed the boat on the rest of it because you
Yeah.
can't understand the basic foundation block of how math concepts come to be.
Yeah. No, that makes total sense. I know that there's certain times when I was going to school that I would just memorize, no, like I didn't understand why, but I would just try to
Mhm.
memorize like, well, this is what happens when this is done. So,
Yes,
and
exactly.
you don't, that's not what the purpose of learning is, right? Like
Right.
it's not meant to be just a memorization and that's it,
Yeah,
right?
exactly. Exactly. Yeah. So it's kind of shifting the model from not all kids can memorize 1,000 words, for example. They need to know why cat is pronounced that way. They need to
Yeah.
know the stem of where that comes from. And so that's kind of, I think, my own experience with math and
Hmm.
science specifically, because I really wanted to know the rationale in order to understand what the baseline was and where I was
Yeah. So how did it work for you after high school? Like, was through the work you did with your tutors and understanding your learning style, did that equate to you doing much better moving on with your secondary education?
Yeah,
Is
I would
it
say,
considered secondary?
yeah, post-secondary,
Yeah, yeah.
college experience. I mean, I ended up majoring in finance of all things, right? Which does
Wow, really?
require quite a bit of math.
Holy
Um,
smokes, yeah.
yeah, I mean, a little bit of math, right? Not, so advanced that, like not at an engineering level, but it's interesting because while I caught up a little bit, I never closed that gap. I never did, while my
Interesting.
peers were able to kind of skate through calculus one. I knew that I needed more time. And I think at that point, something that I learned from, just getting extra instruction was, hey, this is fine. Some
Hmm.
people need to practice it 10,000 times in order to be the master at it. I need to practice 20,000 times in order to be the master of it. And I think that kind of messaging for kids is just so important wherever they go, that like you can succeed.
Yeah.
Let's figure out ways for you to do that. And not to worry, it's a continuous growth process. I think it's just so important for all kids to hear.
Yeah. Uh, when you were going into finance, was that because you had, plans of going into a career in finance? Because that's very different from what you ended up doing with education and that, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I think I had thought that maybe I would go into some form of business, but I guess I've always just been fascinated, even though I wasn't great at mathematical discrete concepts. I think I've
Hmm.
always just been really interested in how kind of business works. Like how does the
Hmm.
money that we talk about in math actually translate into the real world? Like, what are these things like called stocks? And how do we, use that? And I think I was just interested in it. So I think it comes to say that even though I didn't feel like I was a master at the mathematical concepts that go behind finance, I
Hmm.
think it didn't stop me from believing in the value of learning about something and embracing it, embracing the challenges that came along with it, because I was interested in it. And so
Mm.
I always hope, if someone says, I love learning about NASA and space, but I'm currently failing out of my science class, I don't want that to deter them from being fascinated about, outer space and the
Yeah.
science advancements that we've made. I don't want them to turn that off because they think I'm not good at that. And so I think that was very similar to my own experience.
So at Catapult, I saw that it's described as it's an educational service company that supports struggling learners. So I know you just kind of are in the early stages of your position there, but what is it that your organization does, and how they are able to support these students, and what who are the target audience that you guys are supporting?
Yeah, that's a great question, Nolan. So we do offer several different options. One is our intervention programs that directly support our students. So intervention for us can look like having an after-school tutoring program. It could also look like having a push-in service during the school day for struggling learners that need to be retaught concepts. It could also look like a summer school program. Something that we know in Hawaii is that there's a summer break, and sometimes learning loss can occur during those few weeks.
Oh
And
yeah.
so we want to supplement summer break with some summer learning as well. And so those are kind of like our intervention programs that directly support students. And then other things that we do are supporting teachers and school leaders, because we know that's equally important. We need to equip our teachers who are in front of our students with the skills, strategies, and resources to succeed in the classroom. And so we provide hands on coaching in the classroom to teachers, especially for those that are trying to target their struggling learners in class. And so we do provide research based solutions to do that, so that we can continuously support side by side schools who are really working to even the gap between learners.
So is it that you're going in and implementing these programs in the schools, or is it that you are providing the schools with the resources to create these kind of
We do
programs?
both. Yeah, we do
Okay,
both. Yeah. So it just depends on the school partner. And we've seen the most success, honestly, with schools that do both, utilize both
I
of our
see.
services. So if we can get in there and support students after school, for example, and we can also get into the classrooms and coach the teachers around certain skills, we find that that's the most successful model for us.
And how do the schools, I guess, partner with you? Is it that they have to seek you out, or is it that a student has to, I guess, connect with you? Like, how does how do the partnerships come about?
Yeah. The partnerships usually form through the school contacting us.
I
And
see.
so, in this case, it could be a private school in Hawaii, or it could be a public school, or it could be even like the Department of Education could contact us as a whole and say, we're interested in partnering. We have these issues, that we're thinking about approaching. Can we have a conversation? And that's how it always starts with a conversation, trying to understand what are your needs and your priorities, and how could Catapult Learning potentially help you to service your students best.
Interesting. And how long have has Catapult been doing this kind of work? I saw on the websites like over 13 years or something, right? But how long
Yeah,
have they been here in Hawaii?
it's been here since 2008, so that's about 14 years now.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's been a bit, and we started actually mainly with offering professional development and coaching to teachers,
Hmm.
and then from there we introduced our intervention programs that directly support students.
So I'm curious because it sounds like it's really exciting to see the effort being put into supporting schools and the teachers and such. But I keep seeing in the news about how there's teacher shortages and such. What, based on your experiences and what you're seeing, what do you think could be? I know it's a complicated answer, but is there something that you think like, oh, if we could, do this, this could at least maybe help with this situation and prevent us from losing teachers and get more teachers
Yeah, you're
in
right
the
in the sense
schools.
that it is really a multifaceted issue, and there's a lot of
Yeah.
challenges, I think, and COVID has further exacerbated it, to the point where we are suffering from a lot of shortages just overall in the labor market. But specifically to teachers and folks that work with students and kind of suffering, I think what we consider kind of like burnout.
Hmm.
I think it is really important for us to step back and reevaluate what kinds of forms of wellness can we provide to our teachers and our administrators,
Oh,
school
yeah.
leaders. What can we be doing to alleviate some of the responsibilities that come into play in the classroom that may not necessarily be an academically related issue? I
Yeah.
think we all know that teachers, in a sense, are counselors, nurses, therapists, instructional coaches. Like, we know they hold so much responsibility. And
Yeah.
I think it's really important for us to step back and look at, within the scope of one day, what does a teacher need to do? And how can we help to alleviate some of that pressure? And I know for Catapult, we've had this discussion quite a bit internally about, wellness series for teachers. What can we be doing to equip them with more supports around how to identify certain type of social emotional issues, and how can they find resources or direct people to resources to do that? And so
Hmm.
we've been slowly rolling out a suite of mental and social emotional kind of supports. But we know that that's far from solving everything.
Yeah, no, but that's a really great step in the right direction because at least it's helping these teachers feel like they have that support and that it's more than that. I think, feeling this expectation of like, I have to be this super human that has no emotions, just
Yeah.
constantly has to deal with all this stuff. I mean, I can't
Yeah.
even imagine, especially
That's
after going through the pandemic, how difficult that environment is for teachers and students.
right, right. And everyone cares, everyone wants to do right by students. It's just a matter of, we need to realize that everyone only has a certain amount of time in a day, and it can hold a lot of weight when a student is talking to you about a lot of their issues that they've had. and figuring out how to mentally deal with that yourself, and also refer
Mhm.
them to specialists.
So, is this kind of like is what we're describing kind of part of the reason why you uh, transitioned on from being a teacher into the next phase of your career, or what was it that inspired you to, leave teaching and go on to the next phase of your professional career?
Yeah. Well, this is me thinking years back now. This is like us going back into the dinosaur ages, and thinking like, okay, well, I love teaching middle school schoolers. Uh, excuse me. I love teaching middle schoolers, and I'm just trying to figure out to, at that time, I think because I was a relatively new teacher, I had a few teacher coaches that helped me throughout my first 2 years of teaching. And I think I really thought about it and I said, wow, we really need to support our teachers in different kinds of ways.
Mm.
And I wanted to be a part of that. So that's when I moved into more of that administrative role with supporting first year teachers and kind of developing different types of curriculum that could help them to ease their experience into first year teaching. And I think that's really
Ah.
where the interest in kind of working at a more administrative level happened. Though I think, one day, who knows, I might be back in the classroom.
What did your mom think about, you one becoming a teacher and then after moving on to that more administrative role? Did she ever give you any kind of feedback or reaction
I
to your
think that
decisions?
I think she's always been, a concerned mother, right? Like she's always been like, I just want you to be happy and I want you to be successful in whatever way she thinks that means. And I think that at the same time, now that I've been in education for a while, I'm not going to say the years, a while. I think that
I was
now,
holding out for the years.
I was looking at the year on my clock and realized I'm not going to share that. Just not going to go there. But I think that she's proud now of like my role in education. I think when I first told her that I was going to be a teacher, I think she knew how much emotional toil and stress being a teacher can be on someone. And
Hmm.
so I think she was a little fearful for me at first, okay, she's going to go into the classroom. She's going to endure a lot of stress from having to, really support students, and be there for them in every
Yeah.
way. But I think over time, she kind of realized that, I found my calling. And I think she's really happy about it now. I
Oh,
have to go home and
good.
ask her someday.
Yeah. Well, be careful of what the answer you might get, right?
That's that's true. She might have wanted me to go in finance and like be a banker or
Yeah.
something. Who knows? Who
Did
knows?
did your did well and what about your father? What did your father do and how did he think about, what you were going into?
Yeah, my dad is interesting because he barely graduated from high school. He just wasn't a school guy. He just preferred to surf all day, and like he just, they just graduated him from high school to get him out of there, basically. And then he went into the military, and then they gave him an opportunity to try to get a college degree, and he did that begrudgingly. So he's not a school guy, to say the least. So I think for him, he just wanted more for me. He wanted me to graduate from college. He wanted me to have any kind of experience that I wanted. And so I've always felt like he's been supportive of me no matter what I choose to do. But I think for him, just kind of seeing me kind of push through some of the challenges that I had academically
Hmm.
and be able to attend college, I think was a huge accomplishment in his eyes.
How did that marriage work where you have your mom who's all about education, that's her career, and then your dad who's like, I don't even want to go to school
You
and
know,
just get him out of here.
they say opposites attract. And in this case, yes, my dad is a construction worker and my mom is teacher. And the two could not be more different and distinct from one another. So I have to believe the opposites can attract at this point.
Did it in growing up, did you ever feel like the way they communicated was like just speaking two different languages, or like did they just it just seemed like, oh, it's They seem to understand each other pretty well.
I feel like it was a little bit of two different languages, but it's interesting because my dad had placed such a emphasis on getting an education so that I could at least have options in life that he really deferred to my mom to be kind of
Mm,
the educational leader at home.
yeah.
Whatever it took after school tutoring or mom yelling at me again why I couldn't understand math, for the 20th time, whatever it took, he was always behind her. That's if Cara needs that kind of support, let's give her that support to see if she can fly. And, it was just that everlasting belief, I think, that both of them had that allowed me to believe beyond myself and what I could see, into college.
That's awesome because for me and my wife Jamie, we're very opposite as well. I'm like your dad. Like I barely got through and stuff, and Jamie's like super accomplished and uh, holds grades in a high regard. And so when her kids come home with like a B, it's like the worst thing in the world. But for me, I'm like, hey, good job. Like I wish I could get B's.
Yeah, yeah. I should have thought of you and Jamie because that's a perfect example. You both like you make it work, right? Somehow it works. And
Yeah.
you know, it just varies on what people believe in and kind of how you kind of phrase it to kids. I think that's probably the most important part that like both of you may have different beliefs about the letter grade, but if you both are coming in with such a sense of love and you can accomplish what you want, I think that that's really important for kids to hear and for them to have that self-love develop over
Mhm.
time.
So I want to switch gears a little bit here because um, not the last time that we talked and stuff, but is the kind of the last time we were in a lot of constant communication. You had gone on a trip to Wisconsin and tried all kinds of cheeses and stuff. And this was like right when the pandemic was slowing down and things were opening up again. So I wanted to ask you, have you gone on more trips since then? And because I just think that, the trip that you went on was so fascinating. And I got to imagine you've probably gone on more since then.
Yeah, I've traveled a few more times since then. I have not gone internationally yet, but I am headed to London and France in 2 weeks.
Holy
And
smokes, for what?
so my boyfriend's running the London Marathon. Talk
Oh my
about an
gosh.
overachiever, right? Like
Yeah.
run a marathon, no problem, he thinks. While I plan to just cheer on the side and maybe eat some fish and chips or something like that, right? Um, yeah, so I mean, I have had the chance to travel. I actually went to New Mexico in April of this year, and ate green chili for the first time in my life. Learned what hatch green chili was.
What is
Uh,
hatch green chili?
it's like a there's a Hatch Valley in New Mexico, and it's like
Okay.
a special type of Hatch type variety of chili that's grown just there. And so they put it in like all the things you could imagine, like green chili hot dogs and green
Huh.
chili chowder. That was my favorite. It was just like this perfect blend of like spice. It's a little spicy, a little
Uh-huh.
tangy, a little hot, mixed with like a cream corn chowder. It was absolutely delicious.
Interesting.
In Yeah, yeah, it's a really interesting thing. I know Trader Joe's has it in like a seasoning now, but I guess it's their claim to fame, green chili everything, and yeah, I think there's a trend. Wisconsin, I mentioned before that I went to eat like all the cheese curds and try it out. Went to the
Yep.
state fair and tried all the cheeses, and then New Mexico is like the green chili, adventure. So I've had some opportunity to travel. I think it's a great opportunity to learn more about different cultures and perspectives, especially
Yeah.
since, I like to learn about new things every day. So,
So, what kind of new food are you anticipating trying out in
ooh,
England and France?
you know, I am really excited for Indian food. I
Mm,
like, I love Indian food, all kinds. I just want to like eat as much as I can while I'm there. And I'm sure there's other fantastic things that I will try that I've never had in my entire life. And it's my first time
Yeah.
going to Europe, so I have never been there. I'm very
Oh,
excited to
wow.
go. Um, yeah, it'll be I think another new adventure.
Well, is it difficult when you travel for, because I can imagine that if your boyfriend's there for marathon competition, that he's not necessarily eating all of these delicious foods with you because he's got to stay clean and be strategic with what he eats. So what happens? Does he just like sit there across from the table from you and watch you enjoy all these wonderful delicacies? Or how does this work?
We haven't thought that far yet, I think. I think he is thinking that he's going to try to be healthy and like eat conservatively, but I'll bet that once we're there and in a pub with fish and chips right in front of us, like he's going to dive right in. I'm pretty sure. I'm not, and I wouldn't hold it against him. I'm pretty sure when we get to France, we're going to try to find as many bakeries as we can and eat all the breads. And that's carbo loading, right?
Oh my
In
gosh.
preparation.
Yeah. Yeah, I never know what's the accurate, like what's the correct way to do that, because all I can think of is the episode of The Office where Michael Scott's like eating like pasta, like white sauce pasta while he's running and then throwing up afterwards, and I was like, oh
Oh,
no.
goodness.
I think that's not the right way to carbo load.
Probably not. Probably not. And it's funny because my boyfriend's favorite thing to eat before he does a marathon is spam musubi. And I'm like,
Wow,
I don't
really?
think we're gonna
Wow.
find a spam musubi in Europe. I'm sorry to say that. We're gonna have to bring our own microwave rice, a can of spam. Like,
Yeah.
we're gonna have to figure this out. So it'll
You
be
guys are gonna
interesting
have
to see
the
what his.
most yeah, you're gonna have the most interesting carry-on luggage to
Yeah,
Europe.
yeah, that's
Like
true. That's true. The
one
can of
can of
spam.
spam.
Yeah, yeah, and the
Oh,
noti
that's so
wrap away.
crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow, I would never have thought that. Like, I would think the spam would just really like mess up your insides because of the oils and I don't know all that stuff. But who knew?
Yeah,
And
maybe
and
there's
he does well
something.
in these races.
I mean, well, in comparison to what I would do, it's one of those things where eventually he plans to try to qualify for a Boston marathon, and I don't think this is going to be the one because he does plan to kind of indulge and enjoy his time in Europe. So I don't think this is the
Yeah.
one, but that's his goal, and I'm supporting him. He's trying to make his way around the world to complete all of the major marathons,
Oh,
and
that's
Boston would
cool.
be the last one. Mhm.
So when you say you go to cheer him on, how does that work? Because the marathon is like 20 some odd miles of running. And I can imagine that you are at one spot, he passes, and
Mhm.
then is that it? Or do you like jump in a car or a taxi and go further ahead on the track and or the route and come back on and go, keep going? Like
I
how
I
do you cheer him
I
on?
I we did the New York City Marathon. Actually, we did the New York City Marathon last year after I came back from Wisconsin. And my tactic was to catch the metro trains to each
Oh,
stop as close as I could get. And so I kind of pre-planned my routes, that way
yeah.
before the marathon starts and trying to see, okay, how can I get there without having to run?
Hmm.
And so yeah, I think London has quite a few stops that I can kind of hop in and hop off, and then that way I don't need to run 26 miles cheering someone
Yeah.
on.
Have you ever done a marathon with him? Like, has he convinced you to
No,
do one? Okay.
and it's not on my list either. I don't know.
Yeah.
Is running a Have you run a marathon before?
No, sir. People try to get me to do like the Great Aloha Run, and they're like, "It's easy, you
Yes.
can walk." And I'm like, "Nope, not. There's no point
Yeah,
for me to do that."
that's
Like,
my reaction too.
yeah,
That's good for you, but not gonna do it.
it sounds like unnecessary pain. Like I don't
Yeah,
know
yeah.
what the buy-in is for me.
Yeah, yeah. It's one of those things. Yeah, not something that I'm passionate about. So,
So, so if you were to cheer him on at the different stops, what does that look like? Is it just like keep going, honey, or do you actually go full on out with like pom poms or bullhorn or anything like that? How do you support him in his race?
I usually just yell as loud as I can and hope that he can hear me above everyone else yelling. I try to actually plot my points where I feel like the crowd might dim out. And so like, where it's like particularly thin. And I think that's
Yeah.
great because then I get to cheer on other people. I might not know their name,
Oh,
but I
that's
can
so
see their
nice of you.
number, like just like offer that support because I don't want to run 26 miles. And I'm impressed that they are. So I try to find like areas that are a little more thinned out, and that way he can hear me and I can shout other people's numbers out loud, just yeah, just offer some support.
Oh man, this actually sounds fun. Like if I had the time and money and you were willing, I would join you and I would enjoy hopping on like trains or whatnot to just keep going to the different spots and cheering people on. Like
Yeah,
that sounds fun to me. The racing itself not so fun, but
right.
that sounds like a fun, and traveling to different unique places and eating. This sounds like a really great win-win for you and your
Hmm.
boyfriend.
Yeah, we get an excuse to travel, and I get to tag along, so it's great.
Is where is the next place that you guys want to go in this, world tour of places? Because Europe, you've never been
Um,
before, so you're gonna cross that off the list. What would be the next place you'd want to go?
hmm. Well, we are going to Thailand in January, and I've been to Thailand before. Just
Okay.
I'm going to different parts of Thailand that I have not been to before, so I'm really looking forward to that. But I think we've been talking about kind of trying to finish up his marathons a little bit, and so Chicago would be the next one, or
Oh.
Berlin. Actually, I'm sorry, Berlin would be the next
Ooh.
one.
Wow,
Berlin.
that sounds cool.
Yeah, yeah. So we're looking forward to doing that in 2023.
Dang. And
Yeah.
when you're there, do you like document all the, the things that you do, like, take pictures and stuff like that and just keep all of these
Well,
memories?
I am the worst picture taker. I need to learn from you. Like I'm like the worst picture taker, worst video documentarian ever. But what I do is I do tend to keep a record of our itinerary. We went to dinner
Yeah.
here, we, have reservations here. So I tend to be like a real like Word document person so that when someone else goes and they want my itinerary, I can just give it to them and they know
Oh,
like,
that's
okay, this is the
nice.
website to go to book this,
Yeah.
or these are the key pieces to remember. And then I do keep like a small scrapbook of like, just memorabilia that we collected along the way. So
That's
that's my way
awesome.
of remembering.
Yeah. Oh, that's really cool. You're gonna have such a cool collection at the end of that's gonna be morbid the way I say it, but at the end of your life, you'll have
Yeah,
a
I knew
nice
where you're going with
collection.
that. Yeah,
Yeah.
no, no, no. But you're right. Hopefully, like, I don't know, 40 years from now, maybe, I can look back and
Yeah.
say that I followed someone, that I followed, a loved one through all their marathons and got to eat along the way. We'll see. We'll see.
So, of all of these unique things that you've eaten in these travels, what's the one that stood out to you the most? Where you're like, this was the coolest thing that I'm, so glad that I
Hmm.
got to try and that I'm a fan of.
When I went to Korea, this was not for a marathon, but when I got to travel to Korea, I actually went with my dad, because my dad was really interested in going to Korea, and
Hmm.
I love Korean food, and I learned so much about the different types of cuisine and the different ways that people make Korean food, um, that I realized that the Hawaii Korean food was excellent, is
Hmm.
excellent. And yet there are so many other ways that people prepare it. And so I have to say that Korea was probably the most interesting food that I had. I had opportunities to try different kinds of raw seafoods that they had from the wet markets. I also had the opportunity to have like amazing barbecue, and all of the banchan prepared the way that they specialized in it and their own
Yeah.
homes. So yeah, it was amazing. It was an amazing food tour, and I got to see different parts of Korea and the culture there.
Oh man, I'm jealous. I went to Korea when I was like maybe 10 years old or so. And I didn't appreciate it back then. And I just remember their Coca-Cola tasting really weird, like it had
Oh.
like some kind of like tea flavor to it. And I was like,
Oh.
what is this?
Yeah,
And then
I could see as a
and then they
10-year-old
had
that would
me
be real disappointing.
yeah, and then they had me try squid but the squid was still moving,
Yeah.
and I was so paranoid that I was gonna suffocate. Like it would just like stick into my esophagus and suffocate me. So I had a traumatic experience in Korea when I ate there. I need to go back and change that.
Yeah, you should go back, but I don't know what Jamie's gonna eat because I know
That's
Jamie's a picky
well,
eater.
yeah. The only thing she eats, that's Korean well, Korean here, but they won't have it there is meat jud because apparently that's a Hawaii
Hawaii
uh,
thing.
in, invention. So yeah, I don't
Yeah.
know what she would eat.
She'll find something. She'll find something.
And she can't handle spice, and I imagine pretty much everything has spice to it
A
there.
lot of it does. But
Yeah,
I still feel confident she'd find something, like a dessert that she could eat the whole time she was there or something like that.
that's true. I have had some Korean desserts that I was just like, hey, this stuff is pretty amazing. So
Hmm. Yeah. They
yeah,
do
I think
all
she'll find
things
something.
good there. All things.
You know what my favorite is that I found at the Korean supermarket here is like there's this like this grape Korean popsicle, and it's like the greatest thing ever. And I don't know why I've stopped getting it, but now I want to go get it. I think I'm gonna go and drive down there now and go look for it again.
Yeah,
I
the
think maybe
HOWNH
because they
cooks.
stopped carrying it. Maybe that's why.
Oh, that does sound great though. I love grape. And they have so many
Yeah.
different things there that are like fresh, fruity, kind of peachy,
Mm-hmm.
grapey kind of stuff. So, so good.
Yeah. All right. Well, now that we're all hungry,
Yes,
this
indeed.
is a this is a good time to head on out and find something to eat. But before I let you go, share with me a little bit more about Catapult Learning and anything that the public should know as far as like how they can support or get support from Catapult or any other kind of thing that you are involved with that you
Mhm.
know would like to spread the word about.
Yeah, I mean, we've been around since 2008 as a company in Hawaii. But I think Catapult Learning can always use more word of mouth from our local folks. And so if there's, someone that notices something at their schools that they want improvement on, or consulting or coaching, even, or an after school program, we're always here to talk. I'm always here to talk. And, we have a lot of services that have been nationally ranked, research based, that we are happy to share to basically understand what the needs of each school community is. And so, we do have presence on every island except for Niihau and Ko'olave, of course.
Hmm.
But, we are proud to be able to serve across the state of Hawaii. And we serve in many different ways. And we really work to kind of match the needs of what each school community has, or even what parents are voicing. So we do parent engagement workshops to really involve parents in their children's educational journey. So if there's ever a need, or you think, this might be something interesting to learn more about, um,
Hmm.
I am available to talk or email or Zoom in whatever fashion people prefer.
How's the best way for them to either get in touch with you or to learn more about Catapult? Is it through the website?
We do have a website, catapultlearning.com. But we can also provide my email address perhaps some
Okay.
way. But it would be Cara.Kusunoki at catapultlearning.com, and they could reach me there. We're also able to be found on social media through LinkedIn, all of those ways. If you just contact us even through the general line, you will get in touch with me. So
Oh, okay. Well, we'll put that into the show notes as well. So for those of you who are wondering like how it's spelled and stuff, just look at the show notes, and we'll have all of Kara's contact information there. Um, are there any events or things that you guys are planning that you might want to promote?
We have school-based events and programs happening, but we do reserve them for the school so that their own
Okay.
communities can really enjoy it. But we
Yeah.
do have, if there's ever an opportunity, we do our best to post it on social media or on our website of what's going on and what's happening.
Okay. Cool. Well, I am so glad that we got a chance to catch up, and I'm really excited about what you and Catapult are doing in our school systems. I think that's been such a frustration for the community of like we need more support for the schools, and the students need more support, and so to have programs like the ones that you are providing and really paying attention to the needs of the teachers and the students is how we can improve things and get the students the learning that they need and have the teachers the support that they need. I cannot uh think of a better way to make a difference in our community than what you guys are doing, so I'm stoked that you're part of this organization. It's perfect.
Yeah, it's really a dream come true to make it happen and support struggling learners, because I, remember my own experience. And once you've lived it, you can't go back. So it's been wonderful so far. Thank you.
Well, safe travels to you for your future trip. And if you ever do decide to dust off the old clarinet, let us know, and we'll be the first in line to your performances. But
Oh, I thought you were going to say, I'll bring out my trumpet too. Okay.
no,
All
no,
right.
you don't want me to be a part of anything musical. But Jamie is a fellow clarinet as well, and
Oh, there we
she
go.
even like dabbled in you know, making a little comeback a few years ago with the clarinet, and then it didn't last very long. But
Oh, okay.
she was very excited about it at the time, bought a
It's
clarinet and
amazing.
everything, and then it just collected dust in our closet.
Ah, okay. Got it. So we can't come up with a band name yet. Not yet. Maybe
No,
in a
but
couple years.
maybe the band name will be the fire starter. So you come up with the name first, and then the
Hmm.
desire to play.
Hmm.
So
I like that.
yeah, we'll see how it goes. Well, Kara, thank you so much. I'm really excited again for what you have going on, and I think it'll be great to catch up after your trip so I can learn about all the different foods that you tried on this next trip.
Thanks, Nolan. It's been a pleasure.